today we have a tire that is pretty beat up. You can see there are holes all through the side. People have plugged and patched this tire 1,000 times, and this tire is no longer good. So what we need to do is we need to replace it. So we have the rim, the portion that sits on the car at all times, and we have the tire that we remove and change consistently when they go bad or when they get worn out or when they just break and get holes in them over time. So we're going to start today by removing the tire. How we're going to do that is there is a valve stem which has all the air, and inside the valve stem is a valve stem core. So what we are going to do is remove that valve stem core with a valve stem core tool. It has a tip that sits within that groove, and when I remove it, or I push this in here and twist, going counterclockwise or to the left, it will loosen and remove a piece like that. And so this piece has that groove that it sits in, and we can remove it pretty simply. We're going to keep this because the valve stem isn't bad, but the tire is. So we're going to put the valve stem where we won't lose it. So I'm going to put both of those right here, and I am good to go. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to break the bead. On this side you can see it's sitting kind of flush. It's not good because we want to have a gap so we can actually remove the tire, so we could actually get some leverage. So what we're going to do is we are going to break that bead. So I'm going to bring it over to this, which is our bead breaker arm. So I'm going to open this up, and I'm going to slide this flat so it runs flat with this piece here. On the back there's almost like a rubber pad that it should sit flat against. And then I'm going to bring this control arm so it's not sitting on the rim, but sitting on the tire itself to the best of my ability. If it's not sitting on the tire or it's too close to the rim, we could damage the rim, and rims are a lot more expensive than tires. So we want to make sure that we are careful to keep a good gap, but we're still going to break that bead, which is where that gap sits, where we have no gap from the tire and the rim. I'm then going to come over to these 3 pedals here. There's 3 different ones. There's a rotation pedal, a breaker arm pedal, and a clamp pedal for the clamps when we're putting the tire up. We are going to use the middle pedal because we are trying to break the bead. And I'm going to push down in order to clamp and do this properly. If you notice, my valve stem is on the top. It doesn't need to be specifically on the top, but we cannot put this anywhere near our arm, because that will wreck a sensor if there's a sensor here. So what I'm going to do is I am going to put my foot pedal down, and it will clamp right here, and you'll see it move. And my goal is just to create a gap. So if you look here, there's a gap where I can see there's a line. My goal is to go to about that line and stop. So it's here, but it's not all the way around. So what we're going to do is we're going to spin the tire so we're not near the valve stem. We're going to roll it in. We're going to move it a little bit more because I don't want it to be by the valve stem. And I'm going to break the bead all the way around. So I'm going to do this 2 or 3 times until I see a clear gap on this side and the other side. So I'm going to push down. I'm going to break that bead. I went a little farther this time, and you could actually see that gap a little bit better, and it's growing. So now we just need to do it maybe over here, and we will be good to go. So I'm going to spin it to that location, roll it in place, and now I'm going to break my bead for the 3rd and final time. And I'm not by my valve stem again, I'm away from it. So push my pedal down, move this out of the way, and then you can see the bead is broken all the way around. I can roll this around and I can see the gap. But I need to do the other side as well because we got to remove the tire from the entire rim. So I'm going to spin this around, and you can see it's pretty flush on this side, so we're going to do the same thing. We're going to bring this in place, keep it flush, roll it in. I'm going to press my middle foot pedal down. I'm going to break that bead. I'm good. Now I'm going to roll it again while it's in place, or from out here, whatever is easier for you. I'm going to put my tire in place. I'm going to press my middle foot pedal down to make sure it doesn't hit the rim. I'm going to break that bead. And again, I'll do it one more time. Realistically, 2 is sometimes enough, but it's always better to be safe than sorry. So I'm going to roll it in place. Do my third bead break, make sure I don't hit the rim. And break my bead all the way around. So my bead is broken. I can see the rim on both sides all pretty well. And I can spin it and see it all the way around. So now I'm going to lay the tire up here on our machine. So we have our clamps that are currently unlatched. You can see because they are smaller than the actual rim. If they're not, we're going to go to the front and we're going to make sure that we push down to make sure that they are released. But you can hear no air because it's already released. So I'm going to lay this down. And now what I can do is I can lift up on this far left pedal. And it says if you lift up, that's how you stop it and activate the clamps. And if you push down, that's how you squeeze them in and deactivate them. So we are going to lift to activate them. Wait till there's no more air coming out of the machine. And my tire is in place and not going anywhere, which is what I want. I'm now going to grab my control arm. This is my control arm for breaking the bead. This is my control arm for breaking the actual bead down here. This is for breaking the bead off the rim completely and removing the tire. So I'm going to bring my control arm over. I'm going to push down on the top. I'm not going to grab here because my hands can get pinched by the mechanism. So I'm going to push down and pull over until I am in place and I can see the rim very clearly touching the rubber piece. This rubber piece has a shape that looks kind of like a duck. So we have a duck's eye, a duck's beak, and on this side we have a duck's tail. So you can see the beak, the eye, and the tail. That's going to be important for later. What we're going to do is we're going to make sure we're in between the duck's back. We're going to lock it down in place so it doesn't move. And we are now ready to begin to remove the tire as we've broken the bead. I'm going to grab this crowbar that's normally sitting here. And we have two different sides. We have a more pointy side that's kind of more just a straight curve. And we have one that has this weird little U-shaped curve. We're going to use this later. We're going to use this side now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this side and make sure it's facing away from the rim because I want to pull the rim up. I want to be under the tire with this portion. So I'm going to make sure it's sitting like this. I'm going to push down because I've already broken my bead. I'm going to be in between the duck's eye and the duck's tail, or in between this groove that you can see here. And I'm just going to use leverage and pressure. So essentially I'm using a lever and I'm going to break this bead by pushing and lifting up the tire if it wants to. And if you don't break the bead well enough, this will not work. So I'm going to make sure I break the bead well enough, come around here so it actually moves, and now it will actually go up. So that's why it's important to break the bead well, because if you don't, this will not lift up well and you will wreck the tire. So as you saw, I walked around here and pushed down. I knew I could do that because this tire is very used. On a very new tire, that will not be the case, and you need to re-break the bead using this machine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to now use the rotation portion, which is here, and if I push down, it's going to spin clockwise. If I lift up, it's going to go counterclockwise. We want to go clockwise, so I'm going to push the pedal down, and it's going to use the duck's head and use that to do all the work. So this crowbar does nothing now, and the duck's head is doing all of the work. And my top part of my tire is now off. But the problem is, I can't lift this off. This goes nowhere. So what I need to do is I need to continue removing the other part of the tire. So, right now, the way it's sitting, nothing will happen. The tire will not be removed. So what we need to do, and this is the complex part, is we need to create a gap so we can see the rim from the inside, or from the bottom, from the inside to the bottom we can see the rim. And what I'm going to do is I'm now going to use this side, which has that weird U-hook, because we want that to be hitting the bottom part of the rim. So I'm going to stick this through, and right now I can't access the bottom part of my rim, so I'm going to lift up just a little bit so I can. I'm going to bring my breaker bar, or my crowbar, all the way through, I'm going to lift with my non-dominant hand and push with my dominant hand. So if I'm dominant with my left, and that's my stronger arm, I'm going to lift and push with that. My dominant is my right hand, so I'm going to lift with my left hand, push down with my right, which takes a little bit of force. And now you can see that the duck's head is over the duck's tail. So we're over the duck's head, and we're under the duck's tail on the back, and now what we can do is we can actually spin the tire and remove it. So we're going to go to the rotate, same as before. We're going to hit the pedal down and let the spinning and the power of the machine do all the work for us. So I'm going to spin it all the way around. My tire is now off. I can put my crowbar away because I'm done with this for the rest of this event. I'm going to bring my tire down. I'm going to unlock my control arm. I'm going to spin it out of place. And now my tire is off and I'm ready to put my new one on.